All right, clap it up, clap it up. This is Israel. This is ISUPK, Virginia. This is Monday's night's history class. I'm gonna be filling in for Officer Murtaza Kara. I'm gonna do my best to fill these shoes, and we're gonna teach this class tonight. We are the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Started out at 1 West, 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under Commanding General Yohana. And since 1969, we have been teaching the truth of the Bible that Blacks, Latinos, First Nation, Native American people are God's chosen people. We are the Israelites. We are the people that spoke of in that Bible. Every story, every account in that Bible is about us. That is our real Black history. And when I say Black, again, I'm including Latinos and Native American First Nation people as well. Part of the destruction of our people is our identity. Our identity has been stolen from us, and we don't even know who we are. We don't know who we are, let alone who are our other family members. So we don't even know who we are as Blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians. And we also don't realize that we are kindred. We are brothers and we are sisters. Although we go through the same struggles, although we have the same enemies, although the oppressor has killed all of us by the millions, on top of millions, on top of millions, and still to this day has a perpetual, never-ending hatred towards us. No matter what enemy this place encounters, we are always number one on the top of that list. They didn't build a wall for Afghanistan. They didn't build a wall for Ukrainians. They didn't build a wall for the other Russians. They didn't build a wall for the Chinese. They built a wall for our brothers and our sisters. The customs and borders that border patrols that you come through, they stop Mexicans and El Salvadorians and Haitians and us. Everybody else can come through full-fledged, no problem, and it's all good regardless of what their status is with this place, with this country. And that's because we are God's chosen people. We are God's children. Shout out to headquarters in New York. We had the New York Cookout this past weekend. It was glorious. It was awesome time, awesome event. There's a lot of brothers and sisters out there. They got to see the brotherhood, sisterhood that we have here in the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. I was glad to be a part of that. I'm glad to see the generals, glad to see the other officers, the troopers, just the family in general. It's always like a big family reunion when we get together. So it was an awesome time, and that was I was really glad to be there. And teaching, we taught in Harlem, and if you didn't know any better, I've never seen as many Hamites in one location. I thought I was watching the History Channel. Or Rwanda or something of that nature. It's amazing how, again, everybody gets the red carpet treatment when they come over here, except for the people that actually built this place, that actually built this nation. The title of our class tonight is Remember the Days of Old. Remember the Days of Old. And we're going to go to that scripture, and we're going to read that scripture and just kind of get an idea of what it's talking about. Our history, our heritage has been taken, robbed, stolen from us, beat out of us, and we've been beaten to submission. And as a result, again, we are clueless about who we are, and even trying to explain that to other Judites and Benjamites and Simeonites and so forth. It's very difficult. We are proud of our slave heritage. We're proud of our slave traditions. We're proud of being slaves here in America and the different islands and so forth. Even though, again, we have a fraction to show for it, you know what I'm saying, compared to other people. And when you look at us as a nation, how we should identify and how we should weigh things, the measuring stick that we really should use as of a nation, we don't have anything. but they'll give trinkets to one or two of us. They'll give trinkets and wealth to one of two of us, and we're satisfied with that. Or the ones that are satisfied, we've been taught to be such individuals. We've been taught to be so selfish and uncaring and have no compassion or empathy or sympathy for our brothers and our sisters, that we don't even identify with them. I get my check. I could care less about you now because I got my check. Um, you're on your own now. And it never was supposed to be like that. It never can be like that. A family can't be successful with that type of mentality. And we are a family. And that Bible, when it talks about nations and nationality, it's talking about races or families of people. In the Bible, there are 18 nations inside that Bible. And we are the nation of Israel. And all the other nations, they, regardless of how they war amongst each other, when it comes down to it, they prefer their own as opposed to us. We don't prefer our own. We prefer to be around the oppressor. We prefer to be around the other nations. We prefer to identify with the other nations, no matter what they do. No matter what they do to us, we have a short term. We have short term memory when it comes to when it comes to us. No matter what they do, um, no matter how they unalive us, how they rob us for everything, how they take advantage of us, how all the different setups. No matter what happens, we always turn a blind eye to it. We're always forgiving. We have a forgiving spirit when it comes to the oppressor or to the other nations, but when it comes to each other, to our own brothers and our own sisters, our own kindred, our own family members, we want to hold grudges, and we have truly forgotten who we are. So again, tonight's history class is called "Remember the Days of Old," and tonight we're going to talk about a couple of our forefathers who remembered who they were, despite having every opportunity to not have to, but they still remember who they were. It's sad, but it's true. When we had the Passover this past year, and we went down to the Stag Reel Plantation, and we saw the different inventions and innovations that the different slaves and had, the impact that they had on that community, on that city, on that state and period. Um, um, it's amazing. We were stronger, so much stronger then, fresh out of slavery, compared to how we are now. We are weaker now than we were when we were fresh out of slavery, with the tar and feather and the hanging, the beatings, the rape, the robbery, the murder. We were still stronger then. There was more solidarity then than it is now. Now it's every man for themselves. Now is I get mine. I'm not worried about you getting yours. I take care of my family. I don't even look at you or yours as family. And we don't realize how much of a detriment this is to our community, to our survival. We are on the threshold. We are getting ready to enter into World War III. It has started, but it's just not official yet. It's not an official saying or slogan for it. It hasn't been made official and on that grand scale that it's going to get to. But if you've been watching the news at all, and I advise any of us Israelites to keep an eye on the news, keep an eye on what's going on. Reason being, the world is changing. It's changing very, very fast. Um, First off, Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Barakatah to the brothers. If you are in class, make sure you put your city, your state in the comments, your city, your name, your state in the comments so that you get credit for being in class. Yahweh Shema Ladam Hashem Yahweh to the sisters. Again, same for you sisters. If you are in class, you want to make sure you put your city, your name, your state in the chat so we know who you are, so we can get credit for being in attendance in class tonight. If you have any questions throughout the class, by all means, go ahead and type those in. One thing that you will find about the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, we adhere to the rules, regulations, and ordinance of this Bible. That Bible is not a religious book. We're not a religious group. We don't believe in religion, but we do believe in the Most High. We do believe in the Lord. We do believe in His words, and we believe in His Son that He sent for our salvation, our King. And in that book, in that family heirloom, in our family history, that book, it says in 1 Thessalonians 5:21, to prove all things. It says to prove all things. It also says that if a man speak, let him speak as the oracles of God, which means if you're gonna speak, if you're gonna say anything, let that be the words of the Most High. Let that if he's talking and speaking about God and God this, God that, which the Christian church, Christians, Christian members, and actually all the different religions. All the different religions are real big on big up and telling you about God and telling you this and telling you that, but rarely, very seldomly will they go into that book and actually explain what they're talking about, because if they're not in the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, like Sister Anaya is. How you doing? Shalom, sister. Is like some of the other brothers and sisters that attend the classes, they probably don't know what the hell they're talking about. And that's a tough pill to swallow. You have people that's been going to church their entire lives, from they were born and got the first baptism or Christian or whatever they call it, in church. And to now, up until now, they've been in there, and so that's all that they know and they believe, without a shadow of a doubt that they know exactly what they're talking about. But the Bible says that if you are to learn, if you are to know what this word is saying, you got to be taught by a priest and a prophet of the Lord. And everybody that just picks up this Bible, unfortunately, has a bad habit of deeming themselves as priests and prophets, as speakers, as prophetesses, and all this other nonsense, speaking in the name of the Most High, and the Most High didn't call them. The Most High said, I'm going to call pastors, I'm going to call priests according to my heart. And no, you're going to find us in the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. And that doesn't just mean that if you get some fringes, if you look at these classes, if you sit on these classes, that you are authorized to go out and teach this Bible. It doesn't work like that. You got to be part of this body. You have to be part of this body. You have to be learning, again, from the men over us. We don't say anything out of our own accord. We don't say anything out of our own mouths. Everything that we say is in unison. It's in unison, and if I don't have an answer for you, I will go definitely find you an answer. Because the last thing anybody should want to do is mislead or steer anybody wrong when it comes to the Most High. And again, unfortunately, that's just not a thing, and that's not a trend in Israel. We are really, really terrible when it comes to giving out bad advice. And if it's not of the men of the Lord, if it's not of the Israelites who universal practical knowledge, 9 out of 10 is probably going to be bad advice. So again, I'm getting started with tonight's class. Tonight's class is going to be Remember the Days of Old. Remember the days of old. And just with me saying that, we're going to pull that up. That scripture is going to be Deuteronomy 32:7. And I'm going to pull that up, get that on the screen so we all can see that. But with that being said, remember the days of old. What are some of the things you feel like we should remember as a people? What as a nation? What are some of the things that we should remember as a people and as a nation? What are some of the things that we should remember that would make us successful, to allow us to continue to progress? So if you could, in the chat, if you know of anything that you think is important for us to remember, when we pull this scripture up, and I'm gonna pull it up now, and we're reading it, what do you think that they're referring to when they say remember the days of old? Let me go ahead and get that up. But we have a very, very short memory. And as a result, the oppressor takes advantage of that. They take advantage of their short memory. It always, whenever I'm talking about this particular topic here, I always think back to that year or that incident, and it's probably been plenty more since then, where the sister was jumped on by Moab. Moab is Chinese in the Bible. She was in one of their little shops, because they have shops everywhere and all over the place. She was in one of their little shops, and they jumped on the sister, beat the sister up, drugged the sister out the store. The blackity blacks got upset, got bad, got their Sharpies, got their markers, got their signs, stood outside, called themselves quote unquote protesting. Moab, seeing what was taking place, went and put I marked down everything, 50% off in the store. 50% off in the store, and the whole crowd dissipated. Whole crowd went away, dissipated. That same line of people that was outside, or that same mob of people that was outside protesting, were now in line to come in to come and take part of this sale that was going on because they couldn't pass up that 50%, that 50% of them bundles, that 50% of the other products they had, knockoff products they had inside the store. So I always think about this when I come over this particular scripture. The oppressor, the other enemies, the other heathen nations, they know we have a short memory. They know we have a short memory, and they know we have a short attention span. That has been one of the goals of the oppressors over the years to get us used to. When I was growing up, I'm a little bit older. I remember my pops used to always call that television an idiot box. He called it an idiot box, reason being it took the place of you reading, it took the place of you studying and it reduced your attention span down so much over, and you don't realize what's happening as time went on. I remember before cell phones, and then cell phones came on the scene, and cell phones were even worse. Even worse. You will be very hard pressed to walk outside or drive in your car, get on the bus, to get on the train, or go out in public, period, and not see somebody like this stuck down and glued to their cell phone, to their smartphone, glued to their phone, captivating all of their attention as they're navigating, as they're driving, walking, whatever it may be. And this again is by design. Those are called in the Bible the airwaves. The prince of the airwaves is this oppressor, the Satan here, and by him controlling those airways, controlling your day in, day out, pretty much 24/7. He controls you. He controls what you think. He controls what you're influenced by. He controls what you see. Controls what you hear. And that affects how you act, how you react, what you react to. The oppressor tells us when to be mad. Tells us when to be mad. Tells us when to be sad. Tells us when to be angry. Tells us when to forgive. We have relinquish all that control over to him, and we don't realize what we're doing when we're doing that. So in this scripture right here, I don't have an answer, but we're gonna keep on moving. It says, remember the days of old. It says, remember the days of old. So those days of that, the things that used to happen to us before, that should be fresh on our mind now. That we should hold on to what happened before, and reason being, one of the main reasons why we need to hold on to what happened before is because it's bound to happen again. Ecclesiastes, and Ecclesiastes, it says there's nothing new underneath the sun. It's nothing new under the sun. So the things that we go through now, the same tricks and methods, the same hatred that the other nations, that the oppressor has for us, is the exact same nature and spirit and hatred that they had for us back in the day. That hasn't changed. That hasn't changed. We were God's chosen people then. We're God's chosen people now. And the only thing that really has changed, or the biggest difference that you can highlight, is that we don't remember anything that happened before. The oppressor knows who we are. The other nations know who we are. They know how important we are. They know the potential that we have. They're aware of all of this, but we aren't aware of it. We think that our value lies in us dribbling the ball. We think our value lies in us. Our value is us in us hitting a note, or how sexy we dress or we come across, or how many women we can sleep with, or how many men we can sleep with, or how much money we have, or our popularity. None of those things speak anything to the value that you actually have. Your value is in you being an Israelite. Your advantage in everything in this world and everything that you do is you being an Israelite. One of the biggest lies that Christian church teaches and tells us is that race don't matter. Color's not in the Bible. He was all colors. That lie they always tell when you ask them about God or you ask them about Christ. He was all colors. He was all colors. Well, if he was all colors, why did they commission and paint him as a white boy named Cesar Borgia? If he was all colors, he wasn't all colors. He was from the tribe of Judah. He was black. But they're gonna lie and tell you that well, color doesn't really matter. He was all colors, and that's again to downgrade or downplay the importance of your race, of your nationality, of your identity. Without your identity, you don't know what you're supposed to do. Without your identity, you don't know what you're supposed to do, what you need to do, which way to go, what's right, what's wrong. You don't have any of that if you don't have your identity, if you don't know who you are. If you were a dog, or if you were a bird, and you could fly, but you were raised around dogs your whole life, you would learn how to bark and fetch and everything else, but you would never learn how to fly, and that would be that's your skill, that's your gift. You can fly, but you would never attain or get to that point because of your identity crisis, because you think that you should be just like the rest of the dogs that's around you. Well, we've been taught by that lying church and these other lying religions and that mosque and in that church that we are equal to everybody else. And that's just absolutely not true. It's absolutely not true. In fact, it's the furthest thing from the truth. We are Israelites, and as a result of us being Israelites, we are better than all of these other nations, better than the oppressor, better than the heathen. However, with us following after these other nations, because we don't remember who we are, we become just as bad, or we become worse. We become worse, and we never reach that potential that we are. And as a result, we are the walking dead. We are that valley of dry bones that Ezekiel was talking about, because we don't know who we are. So it says to remember the days of old. We all gotta always keep in mind of who we are, where we came from. Those things are important. Legacy is important. Inheritance is important. Your pedigree, that's important. We're taught that it doesn't matter who you lay down with, where your baby come from, as long as you love them. That makes no sense whatsoever. If you honor your mother and your father, and you come from a black father or a Latino father or a Native American father, and you honor your mother and your father, why would you not want that legacy to continue on? Why would you not want um why would you not want your father's legacy to continue? Why would you want to give that away? If there was an inheritance to pass down, why would you want to pass that down or pass that away to another nation? How is that honoring your mother or your father? How have those things not have become unimportant now all of a sudden? Now those things are unimportant. And again, that's the exact opposite of what the Lord wanted for us. But the oppressor knows that. The oppressor knows that, and the other nations knows that as well. If it's not important to us, just how Esau's inheritance wasn't important to him, and he sold his birthright. We have been tricked into selling our birthright. We give our birthright away every day, trying to be good Americans. We give our birthright away every day, trying to be good Christians, trying to be good Muslims, trying to be everything except for, again, what the Lord told us to be, and that's Israelites. So it says, consider the years of many generations. So it shouldn't just be well, I know my father, but I don't know my grandfather, and I don't know further back than that. None of the other stuff is in matter. That's old. We shouldn't have to worry about that anymore. That's not what it says right here. It says, consider the years of many generations. Many generations. It says, ask our father. Now, unfortunately, for a lot of us, we don't even know who our father is. So, unfortunately for us, it's hard for us to even begin that journey to trace back that lineage to find out where we came from. And that's all part of the curses. That's all part of the curses, and that's how it's designed to be, because the oppressor, again, knows how important this is to us. He knows that if we remember the days of old, and if we consider the years of many generations, a lot of those tricks that they pulled on us back in the day won't be able to be pulled on us now. A lot of the traps and weapons that they used against us then will become null and void now, because we will realize who we are, and we realize those tricks and those traps and those weapons that they used against us before, so we would know how to defend against them. But because that church has taught us that we all bleed red, we are all God's children, because that church taught us that, we don't have the natural defenses that comes along with having our identity. We don't have the natural defenses that come with knowing that we are Israelites. And as a result of with us being Israelites, we have enemies in this earth. We have enemies, we have rules, we have regulations. But if we're taught to be just like everybody else, if we believe we're all the same, all that goes out the window. and we don't realize that how we are dying at a rapid and alarming rate, and we are suffering on a continual basis because we don't operate in accordance with what the Most High wanted us to how He wanted us to operate. It says, "Ask thy father, and he will show thee." If we had a time capsule, we can go back and go back in time and speak to our forefathers and ask him about the Romans. Oh, he would tell you about the Romans. He would tell you how Esau, when he came through, how brutal he was, how wicked he was. He would tell you about all the traps and tricks that Esau had. How he was different from everybody else. He would tell you how unforgiving he was, how he had an unparalleled and a perpetual hatred towards us. He would tell you how he hunted us down. Then if you could take that same time machine, go a little bit further, and maybe and hit when we was coming off those slave ships. Oh, and speak to some of our ancestors. They would tell you how brutal that white man was. Or if you could speak to Gad and the Native Americans when Columbus and them pulled up to those shores, they could tell you how much they raped and how much they robbed and how much they murdered. And no matter how good we were to them, no matter how benevolent we were towards them, no matter how much we tried to save them, how much we tried to feed them and show them how to survive off the land, no matter how much we gave to them. Every time we extended our hand, they cut it off. He would tell you about that old forked tongue serpent, Esau. He would tell you about it. And then if you could take that same time machine and then speak to some of them for them ancestors coming off them slave ships, they would tell you how they packed them in them ships like sardines. And not only did they pack them in them ships like sardines, when it came time to getting close, if you got sick, they would just throw you over the side. And it didn't matter if you was young or if you were old. None of that mattered. They would tell you how they would cut the pregnant women stomachs and have the babies drop out just to catch alligators. They would tell you about all of that. If you could remember the days of old, ask our father, and they would tell you and show you those things. But see, because of that lying church has taught us to forget all of that. And then because of the church and the different influences that we are bombarded with every day, all day, we've been desensitized to it. So it's no big thing now. And then that big trick taught you to be an individual. Get yours, or die trying. Because you're an individual now, you don't even have a connection. You don't even have a connection to your father or to his father or their fathers and what they went through. It says, ask and he will show thee thy elders. We don't have a connection to the elders. It says that we can go back and ask them elders will tell us. And you know what, though? Those stories would be similar. Those stories would be the same. And you know why those stories would be the same? Because this devil, this oppressor, these other nations, they've always been the same. They've always been the same. There's nothing new. There's nothing new under the sun. Again, the only thing new is our perception of it. And even that isn't as new as we think it is, because we've always been fooled when it comes to this oppressor. We've always wanted to follow the other nations as opposed to following the Most High. I'm gonna go down. I'm gonna read this second verse also. It says, when the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance. Again, that church teaches us that it's all about unity. It's all about us coming together. That is an absolute lie. The Most High divided us in the very, very beginning. In the very beginning, the Most High divided us. We were never supposed to have all these other nations on top of us. We were never supposed to be coexisting how they claim. It never worked like that. The geese don't run with the crows or with the ravens or with the eagles or with the sparrows. Everybody's separate. Everybody does their own thing. And that's how they survive. We are the only species of people or creature that believes or feels. And when I say only, I'm talking about blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians that feel like we can be with everybody else and it's okay. Nobody else believes that. Nobody else does that. When the Chinese come over here from overseas and they set up shop right over here in America, they have Chinatown. Oh, I know. I drove through it. Huge, congested, compacted. You would think that you was watching the doggone History Channel. You would think that you weren't even in America no more. When we got finished teaching in Harlem and we hit that corner, you would have thought that you was in damn Sudan or Southern Africa or something. All out on the block. Everywhere you can see, all you see is ashy feet, sandals, and damn Africans. That's everywhere you look, in every direction that you see. We are the only ones who feel or believe like we can all just get along. Let's get along, whatever. It doesn't work like that. So even when they come over here, they still know the state of themselves. And as a result, they don't have to vote. Asians didn't vote, but they got a hate crime bill. Africans didn't vote, but they're not stopping them at the border like they stopping Mexicans. They ain't stopping them at the border like they are. They're not locking their children up in dog cages at the border. They're not building the wall to keep them out. They're not doing that. Even though these same places, these same countries are preparing right now for World War III against the United States. They're preparing right now, getting ready right now, drawing that line in the sand. They're not kicking them out. They're not locking them up. They're not doing none of that. But you're not even safe. Us, we're not even safe when we go outside. It says, so when the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance. See, it's an inheritance that comes with us being Israel. It's an inheritance with knowing your identity. But if you don't know your identity or hold or cherish your identity, you're going to give that inheritance well. You won't even know that you have one. We don't even realize that we have an inheritance. The Bible says that the Lord says that this world was made for our sakes. Our sakes. If I have time, I'm gonna pull up this slide before I leave out. I read something. I first read it. I had to read it again. You know, sometimes you read some things and you like, I know that didn't say what I think it just said. And when I read it again because I got to be a typo. Maybe I misread it. Maybe I misunderstood it. And it said that all of the world could fit inside of New York City. Everybody. It didn't say the country. It didn't say several countries. It said the entire world. That's just how big that one state is. 80% of everybody in the United States lives on the East Coast. Now, if you, again, ventured out into public, you go to work, you go to school, you've seen the congestion, you've seen the traffic, you've seen how you live when they stack you on top of each other, on top of each other, on top of each other, like roaches. So all this is planned chaos. This is planned chaos. But if you read, when we read right here in 8, it says, when the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance. See, without that division, we don't realize that we're supposed to be divided. Without that division, we suffer. We're congested. We're compacted. We in these super large cities, but they put us on a little bitty plot of land. And that little bitty plot of land is controlled to keep you, make sure that you're stressed out, make sure that you can't remember them days of old, make sure that you can't get back to who you are, make sure that you will never, ever, ever realize that you are Israelite, make you believe in the American dream. It's a big melting pot and we're all supposed to come together, even though it says right here in verse 8, when the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance. The Most High is all about division, has always been about division, always been about division. I remember when my kids were younger and we would go certain places. When we would go certain places and I had my kids with me, y'all stay right here. Y'all stay close. Don't venture out too far. Come on back over here too close. I wouldn't care if it was the park. I wouldn't care where it was at. Don't get too far. Don't get too close. Reason being, a good parent, good father want to make sure he got to get out on his kids. And I can't really control what's going on with the other ones over there, but I can keep an eye on mine. It's power in that. It's strength in that. It's unity in that. We've been taught to give all of that away. I just want to be like everybody else, which is, again, not what the Most High wanted. Shalom, Yahweh, Shalom, Shema, Thamba, Shem, Yahweh, Shada, Miss Sister Coco in the building. Yahweh, Shem, Yahweh, Shada, Barakatah, the trooper across upon the building. I was just talking about how glorious the trip to New York this weekend was. And then I was also expounding on all the different heathen nations that you see while you are there. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's definitely a sight to see. You see all these other nations and they have brotherhood and they're around each other and they congregate with each other. They look out for each other. And then you see some of us and you see more, you see more alternative lifestyle members of us than you see of anything else. You see these old Christians and elders who haven't passed down anything positive, anything good, nothing but fables and fairy tales down to us, sitting around and enjoying enjoying the city or whatever. And again, it all gets back to the topic of this class, remembering the days of old. We have forgot who we are. We've forgotten who we are, and we've forgotten what the Most High called and wanted for us. So it says, so when the Most High divided to the nations their inheritance, and when he separated the sons of Adam, we were separated. We were never, ever supposed to mess with those other women. We were never, ever supposed to lay down and make marriages, because sex is marriage. You were never supposed to make marriages with these other nations of people. Never, never. And again, when you talk about inheritance, if I'm an Israelite and my son lays down with an Edomite, which is Esau, which is the oppressor, if I pass anything down to my son, well, now whatever I pass down to him, it goes away to the other nations now. All that work, all those 40, 50, 60, 70-hour weeks going down the drain, it goes right back to the oppressor, right back to the slave master. That's never what the Lord wanted and intended for us. And that's not, we should never even want that for ourselves. But again, because we don't know who we are, we don't know the importance of nationality. We don't understand the importance of having a nation, having an or inheritance. We don't understand what those things mean. The other nations know exactly what those things mean. He set the bounds of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. This entire earth, the boundaries that were made based off of us. The world was made for our sakes. We've been taught to forget the days of old, forget that the Most High divided to the nations, forget, and it's everybody's now. And that's just never, ever how it was intended. I'm going to read this last verse. I'm going to read verse 9. It says, for the Lord's portion is his people. That's one, again, when you get back to these lying religions, a lot of these religions are just the other nations inserting themselves into our story. So when it says that for the Lord's portion is his people, well, that lying Christian church has taught us that everybody's Lord is God's people. All you got to do is say the magic words. You say those magic words, I accept Lord Jesus, my Savior, Christ, and boom, automatically, you God's people too. No mention of inheritance, no mention of remembering the days of old, no mention of our Father. So I guess by you saying them magic words, we got the same daddy now all of a sudden. It makes no sense whatsoever. But again, that church teaching the fables, teaching the lies, teaching the fairy tales that it do, we be buying to that, not realizing what we're giving up when we do that, not realizing what we're giving up when we agree to that, when we sign on to that deal. We give up everything. Without our identity, who are we? Without our identity, who are we to even complain about anything? We have nothing to hold on to without our identity. We have nothing to hold on to without our race. So when a church lies and tell you that race doesn't matter, that's just absolutely not true. And it's never been true. Race is all throughout the Bible. Race is one of the main predominant things inside of the Bible, if not the main predominant thing in the Bible. Our whole nation was built on that pedigree. You being able to prove your pedigree. You being able to prove who you were. Prove that you were Israel. That's just how important our inheritance was. And that it didn't go to nobody else, that it stayed within us. Because John 4:22 says salvation is for the Jews. That's not for everybody else. Christ ain't coming back for everybody else. He coming back for his people. Without us not even knowing who we are, how can he come back to get us? We don't even know he's supposed to be coming to get us. So again, this is how they've tricked and manipulated us into giving up that birthright of ours. It says Jacob is the lot of his inheritance. And Jacob comes from Isaac. And then Isaac had Ishmael and he had Jacob, but Jacob was his firstborn. And then Jacob, after he wrestled that angel, his name was changed to Israel. His name was changed from Israel. And he fathered those 12 sons, and those 12 sons is how we got our nation. That's how our nation was comprised of. So I'm gonna get this one off the screen. Like I said, tonight's class is called it's titled "Remember the Days of Old." So in remembering the days of old, I asked a question in the beginning. We didn't have too many people in here, so I'm gonna ask it again. In remembering the days of old, and considering the years of many generations, it says, ask thy father, he will show thee. Ask thy elders, and they will tell thee. What are some of the things you feel like anybody think that we should remember? What are some of the things that we should be passing down to our children? What are some of the things that we should be considering throughout those years and many generations. Who can tell me a couple of things? What's some of the things y'all feel like are important for us to remember, for us to hold on to? If y'all can give me a couple of those. We got Sister Nas, Sister Coco, Trooper Carl in the building. What's some of the things that we should hold on to, that we should remember, that we should pass down to our children? I think one of the biggest problems that I know I encountered when my children was younger, as a parent, for us, they made us such weak parents. You have a tendency as a parent not to want your child to hurt. You want to shield them from all types of pain, but that's a double-edged sword. Reason being, you can shield your child from pain, and really, in essence, all you're doing is setting them up to hurt later on. And when I say that, for example, you can tell your child, cold outside, put on a jacket. Cold outside, put on a jacket. Cold outside, put on a jacket. Until they go out there and they get cold and they feel it, they're not going to realize that it's weight behind what you're saying. It's not going to be important to them if you always step in and not allow them to grow, not allow them to feel that. You can't shield your child from everything and still protect them at the same time. We didn't teach our children about, some of us, I say that loosely when I say we, because I try to make sure mine's new. And not to say that I did everything right, because there was things that I did wrong with mine as well. Not being part of this body, not learning from the priest and the prophet, not knowing who you are, not realizing that you're an Israelite. You are bound to not teach your child everything they need to know if they're Israelite. Reason being, the specific lessons that we have to learn. We're not like everybody else. We can't just stick our child in front of a television and expect them to get all of it. It's not going to work like that. There's specific things they need to know for their safety because they are an Israelite. And if they don't get that, well, then they're susceptible to whatever comes with the ignorance of that. They're going to be susceptible to whatever trap is laid ahead of them because they don't know the trap is even there. They don't know that that's an enemy, so they're walking up to the enemy. They don't realize it's an enemy. I remember with kids, we teach our children, stranger danger, stranger danger. Don't get nobody car. If I ain't coming to pick you up from school, if I ain't tell you somebody else coming to pick you up, you don't get nobody car. You don't go with nobody else. Well, if you never teach your child that, and somebody rolls up to the school with their favorite candy or their favorite puppy, they got a new puppy for them, and they know their name. Hey, such and such, come on, I got this just for you. Your mother sent me, your father sent me. If you never teach or show your child that, they're gonna jump in the car and ride off. You'll never see them again. So it may be a hard lesson to teach them. You may have to tell them and show them, yep, there's some ugly, dangerous people out in the world, but that lesson, showing them that may just save their life. Now they are better equipped to defend themselves because you shared that with them. They're better equipped to defend themselves because they sat through that lesson. If they never get their lesson, they never know who they are. How can they ever defend themselves when it comes to that? So when it says that remember the days of old, I want to pull a little video of a day of old. If you talk to a lot of these new age Negroes nowadays, they sweeping down and tell you, I ain't no slave. That was a long time ago. They ain't had nothing to do with me. Then you talk to some of them other ones. Well, if it was me, I would have did this, and if it was me, I would have did that. Not realizing the magnitude, the depth, the how heavy, how intricate slavery was. Slavery was everything, and everything was slavery. Slavery was like the Bitcoin back then of the day. Everybody was getting that Bitcoin money, that slavery money. Everybody had their hands in slavery. It was so common. It was a global trade. That's your first global trading right there, slavery. That's your first your global economy was the slave trade. That's the first thing that was traded on Wall Street was the slave. That's one of the first things that was insured with these insurance companies is slaves. So all these companies right now, they got businesses that's done been around. You see their little monikers since 1935 or since 1850, whatever. Well, those companies, how you think they got the money they got to start up? What do you think that initial investment came out of? What do you think that wealth? How they generated all that wealth that they got? Let me show you a little clip, and we're gonna get a little piece of it so you can kind of get a better idea when they're talking about remember the days of old, what they're referring to. We we become so complacent. We become so complacent and we don't remember the days of old. And sometimes it's just hard to remember things. And I understand all that. But being an Israelite is not an easy thing. It's not an easy thing. And it's one of those things we can't afford to forget who we are. When we forget who we are, we end up here in America thinking everybody our friend when nobody's our friend. So we're gonna play this. Let me see it. If you can't see it, just let me know.
From their homeland and forcibly shipped across the Atlantic. A journey that almost 2 million of them wouldn't survive. By the turn of the 18th century, European merchants were building vessels capable of transporting hundreds of slaves per journey. These ships had extra portholes for ventilation, weapons mounted on deck in case of rebellion, and additional compartments added below deck to take on more human cargo. Before boarding the ships at African port cities, slaves were stripped of their clothing and remaining possessions and had their heads completely shaved.
Now I'm gonna pause it right there because again, when we hear these accounts and we hear these different tales, even the movies, it's very easy to kind of gloss over or speed past things, not realizing just what they're saying. They were packed in there about hundreds, and then when that wasn't enough, they carved out a little space, or pretty much they were stuffing slaves in and everywhere that they can. They were stuffing us in there, every hole, every nook, every cranny. They was putting us in there. Then they put these big guns on top of the ship just in case these niggas think they want to run. Just in case. So again, the thought, the method behind it, how strategic this was. This wasn't no happenstance. Okay, let's grab a couple of them, see how it work out. This was how the Bible says a confederate effort. They all came together for this. The Africans sold us to the white people. The Arabs helped rounded us up and built the ships. This was a concerted effort. Everybody had their hands on this. Sister Nat says, I tell my son, the white man and woman and child is the devil the Bible speak of and our enemy, and I make him say it, and that we are God's chosen and we are better than the other nations. And sister, you are ahead of the game. So many of our people are scared. Either they're scared or they refuse to pass down the words, the wisdom that was left to us by the Lord. Why would those things be in the Bible for us not to tell our children that? That right there shows you that we are in Babylon. That shows you that the oppressor is against the Lord. That shows you that these churches are against the Lord. Because I guarantee nobody in church is telling their kids that, because that's not good for the church. They're not telling their kids that. We might have some white parishioners in here. I can't tell my child that. They're not teaching their children that. They're not teaching their children that they the devil and you win. And I like how you broke it down. You said the white man, woman, and child. You didn't leave out none of them. You didn't leave out none of them. You hit all of them. You made sure you let them know that all of them, because again, their words are smoother than butter. They smile on your face. They tell you everything nice. They're all over the television. They're all over the radio. Everywhere you see, they're gonna get the opposite. They're gonna get the opposite disclaimer that the Bible just gave you about these people. The Bible said that we were sold to our enemies, but everything else you see in this place is going to tell you that they're not their enemies. No matter how much they shoot you and kill you and dead in the street, no matter nothing that they do, all the rape, the robbery, the murder, no matter what they do, every day it's a different story. You're going to still be told that, no, don't believe your eyes. Don't believe none of that. Definitely don't believe that Bible. Or you believe our account of the Bible and what we're saying. Don't believe what it says. So yeah, Sister Na, give you a hell of a hand, because again, you preparing them and getting them ready, and not only that, you teaching them who they are. You teaching them that you have an inheritance, you have a legacy, and it's just something about that I never forget. This side note, when I used to watch basketball, I don't really watch too much of no sports or anything now, but I never forget I was watching it, and they were this is I think during the time when the Celtics were doing their thing, and they had interviewed Bill Russell. I don't know if you know Bill Russell. Bill Russell was one of the older players that came along up in Boston. Boston has some special crackers in Boston. Ain't using me lying. You got some really, they embrace their racism. They embrace their oppressive status in Boston. But he was telling how, during the games or him coming out from the locker room, and they would throw drinks, they would throw hot dogs, they would nigga this and nigga that, and just how hateful and how vitriol they were when it came to him. But he always, if you know anything about Bill Russell, he always kind of was standoffish and was different from everybody else. It was different from the rest of them. He always had a certain air or honor about him. Now he wasn't an Israelite, and so we always try to always put that disclaimer out when we're talking about people in the world. But one thing that stuck out about the interview, the guy asked him, he was like, "Well, how were you able to do this, and you were able to do that, and you were able to hold on to the standards that you had?" And he looked the announcer in the face and he said, "Well, I'm a Russell. I was raised to be a Russell." So just in that small dichotomy of his father teaching him and his brothers and his siblings, y'all are Russell. So because you're a Russell, you act like this. Because you're a Russell, you hold yourself like this. Because you're a Russell, this is how you did this. This is how the Russells get down. Just in that small little sliver, he had a little piece of an identity. We have such a great identity. We have such a great history and legacy and heritage. And if we could just tap into that, we'd be able to hold our heads up high, like Sister Nason is, and gonna be able to say, "No, I'm an Israelite." When his friends is getting high and they say, "Hey, man, come on and hit this," he gonna be like, I'm an Israelite. And they might not understand it, but he gonna understand it. And because she's teaching them young, it's gonna be ingrained in them. It'll be second nature to them. Now I'm an Israelite. We don't do that, and he ain't gonna feel no kind of way about it. That's important. And you only get that with an identity. You get that with the wisdom of the Lord. You get that with the wisdom of His word. Trooper Carl says, with little holes for ventilation, they probably could hardly breathe. And you're absolutely correct. They couldn't hardly breathe. It was a lot of sickness. You think about it. You got women having their cycle. You got brothers that's sick, never been on a damn boat before, throwing up. You got piss. You got feces all down, and they poke these little bitty holes just enough to pass the damn scent along the rest of the boat. So they couldn't hardly breathe. A lot of them would get sick, and when they would get sick, because of the insurance, again, I told you we were some of the first things insured was slaves. Well, if they died on that boat, they didn't get that money for that trip. But if they died in that water, they would get the money. They would get full price for that slave, or they would get that insurance money for that slave. So I never forget when I watch Amistad. Now I say again, Amistad, another disclaimer: we not no Africans. We not no Africans. We came over with Hebrew names. Like a Kal Sapar coming across them ships, and Yagadah coming across them ships. Wasn't no damn Fifi and Umfungo and none of that coming across them ships, because that's who sold us to the white man. But it's a scene on there where they got them chained and they throwing them in the water, and as one go down, of course the chain pulls the other one, and they just going further and just drop into the water. And then I learned afterwards, well, that's because, again, insurance wise, if they died in the water, they got the insurance money for them. White man's a devil that the Bible speaks of. This oppressor, he's a devil that the Bible speaks of. Let's go ahead and finish reading, watching this.
During boarding, which could take weeks or even months, slaves lived on the deck of the ship in a temporary wooden house constructed by the crew. The crew also installed netting around the deck of the ship, designed to catch slaves who might opt for death over.
So you heard that, right? So first off, it said months, weeks, and months. You sitting there waiting. It's a little white woman out there right now that they get a PTSD check. They get a check. I never forget the Boston Marathon when the Boston Marathon bombing. And after this bomb, there's one bomb went off. And I never forget, like weeks afterwards, they did like a little press conference, and all the white people come up there, and they were so upset. And one lady was saying how she was getting every time she heard sirens, she would just get to shaking when she heard sirens now and loud noises now, and so she's getting a check now for PTSD, all because there's one bomb that went off. And you think about the things that we go through on a daily basis. Yabashim Yashar Bakathad, awesome Taza Karada building. You think about the things that we go through on a daily basis, and then you hear kind of imagine what they just said just now. Weeks and months, and looking at this, and looking at this little hole, this door, seeing this ship, knowing you about to be on there, you will never ever go back home again. In the same conditions there, you're gonna be is on the ship. Only thing on the ship, you ain't gonna be able to move. You're gonna be compacted even more. What about the PTSD from that? What's the psychological damage and the effect of that? But they never speak about that. Never speak about that. They never care about that. That's never been an issue for them. That's never been a plight. They get out there with signs and say, "Save the whales. Stop animal testing. Save the whales." Well, they used to test and experiment on niggas all the time. This is how you get all your medical procedures, your OBGYN procedures. They would rape our women, impregnate our women, and make the woman give birth to the baby, no anesthesia. I read this one account with a doctor, I forget his name. I'll pull it up for one of our next classes, but he was like the father of psychology, of obstetrics or whatever. So a lot of work is based off of him. And he would talk about how he would cut the women open, just pull the babies out and see what they're, because they had a quote unquote higher pain tolerance than regular women, than white women or other heathen women. This is the oppressor. And then last part, you see how they say, even if remember we talked about it in class before, drapetomania. Drapetomania is what they would call when the slaves would run off their field. When they would run off the field, they would call it drapetomania, because it has to be something wrong with him mentally in order for him to try to run away from slavery. Why on God's green earth would he try to run away from this good plantation where we beat the niggas, rape the niggas, enslave them, boil them in pots, boil them in big pots, make them fight to the death? Why would he ever? Then we not to mention the whippings. Wow, whip you till your back is busted open. Throw some salve on the back of it, and get back to work. If you don't die, well, your children are out there picking cotton, and if you ever seen cotton, the thorns on it this long, and how you sticking your hand and just the horrible, horrendous conditions that we lived in. But if you ran off, they call that drapetomania. That was a mental disease. So on the side of these ships, when some of us said, hell with it, I'll jump over the boat, well, they put netting out there. So if you do jump over the boat, you won't get that far. You're going to land in that net. I'm going to pull you back in here, torture you even more for trying to jump across, then chain you back up so you can make the duration of your journey. Trooper calls upon, said, I need one of those checks. Laugh out loud. I definitely need one of those checks. I think we all do. Growing up in Babylon, knowing you are the descendant of the slave, knowing that you are still the slave now. When you in a world I always call Disney World, where they tell you that everything is okay and it's all dream world. You have anything that you want, but you look around and you see none of that stuff outside. And your only solitude or your only solace is pretending to be like these people. Because if you pretend to be like them, you can probably have a better life. If you one of them LGBT members, you might just get a good job, or you might just die with a 38-year life expectancy, trying to be trans or trying to fulfill one of those alternative lifestyles. It's hell for us here. It's hell for us here. And the only way it's not hell if you're an individual and you don't identify, you don't remember the days of old of your brothers and your sisters. So let's go ahead and finish this up.
For forced servitude. Once moved below deck, slaves would find themselves stuffed into compartments with ceilings as low as 4.5 feet.
4.5 feet. So if you 5 feet tall, you stuck.
Most of their voyage. They were segregated by gender and age. Adult men were kept separately and shackled in pairs. Women usually left unbound in their designated compartment, and children often free to move about the ship. There was no plumbing of any kind. Slaves were forced to relieve themselves where they sat, creating hellish conditions when combined with the heat and lack of ventilation below deck. Disease was rampant. Measles, smallpox, influenza, scurvy, and dysentery, the #1 killer,
Absolute hell. I don't know if any of you have ever been inside of a porta potty, just a porta potty on a summer's day. It was one out there at the park. I think all the brothers and sisters, once they learned they can go to the pool, nobody went to the porta potty. Everybody bypassed that, went to the pool, and they was using the restroom in there because again, that is it's just unbelievable. It's unfathomable to know that they had to live in these conditions for months and months and months and months on end in this journey. 99 million of us died just on the trip going back and forth. Sharks changed their migration patterns, and to this day, they still follow the routes that the slave ships used to take because it was such a good source of food. All those bodies. White man's the devil that the Bible speak of.
Savage slaves and crew members alike. The slaves generally spent about 8 hours a day above deck, but were still separated by gender with a barricado, a reinforced wall that could be used to protect crew members in case of a revolt. Slaves were also subject to forced exercise, sometimes including dance and song for the entertainment of the crew. Disobedient slaves were tortured and beaten, usually.
Now, when I hear that, for the entertainment, we are still entertainment for these people to this day. I listened to the general speak this morning, General Katham Gabar speak this morning, and he had mentioned Beyonce. Then I pulled it up. I Googled it on my phone once I was able to pull over and look at it. And the title said, I probably should have pulled that up for y'all tonight. This was her gayest concert ever. She has more transgenders, more alternative lifestyle members. The music is all based off that alternative lifestyle. It's based off of older LGBT members from before, their music and so forth. People are paying hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars just to go see her. We don't see anything wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it at all. Even though that's never been part of our culture. Never been part of our culture. We love to get up and sing for Master. This is why I was so proud of Jill Scott when she got up there and did her rendition of the anthem, and how she sang that thing. Because that took courage to do so. But we don't have a lot of that courage now because again, we don't know who we are. Now, this is my last time interrupt. I'm gonna let it ride this time. Let it go ahead and ride on out this time. But again, when you're watching things like this, it's very easy to gloss over it or skip over it. And how Trooper Carlson pointed out the little holes for ventilation, how they probably couldn't even breathe through that. They so smooth with their words, with these documentaries and these accounts and so forth, and it'll slide right by. You won't even realize just how cruel and how inhumane it was. The fact that we are still here, is the proof, is the evidence of our Most High power. Because if it wasn't for God, if it wasn't for the Most High power, if it wasn't for Him sending His Son Yahweh Shai, we would have been gone a long time ago. We would never even made the voyage. We never made the voyage. We would never made the voyage, never made it in these fields. The conditions that we go through right now to this day. It's amazing. We're not all running around, like Trooper Carl say, trying to get one of these checks because our minds are just gone, being here in Babylon. So Barak Yahweh Shai to the Most High for again just the resilience and the strength that He put inside of us.
Whipped with the especially cruel cat o' nine tails, a tool designed to inflict maximum pain. Slaves who refused to eat their typical meal of rice and beans were forced to do so, sometimes with the speculum oris, a medieval tool used to pry open unwilling mouths. Women, while usually left unshackled, were raped and sexually abused by members of the crew, sometimes arriving in the New World carrying the children of their attackers. But it was the women, using their minuscule freedoms, who would often coordinate mutinies against their captors. But these rebellions were rarely successful. The true extent of the horrors of the Middle Passage came to light in a 1783 court trial over the slave ship Zong. The Zong left Africa in 1781 with 442 enslaved on board. After a 2-month journey riddled with navigation errors, 62 slaves and 7 crew members had perished without reaching their destination. Disease was spreading throughout the ship, and fresh water was running dangerously low. Captain Luke Collingwood was afraid of the financial cost of more deaths. Slaves that died of disease were not covered by the ship's insurance, but slaves who drowned were. Some 133 slaves were thrown overboard. Collingwood claimed it was necessary to do so to halt the spread of disease. At the trial between the Zong's owners and their insurance company, the owners argued that because it was legal to kill sick animals for the health of a ship, it was legal to treat infected slaves the same. The court agreed, but the trial itself exposed the horrors aboard the Zong. The story was republished by British abolitionists with the name of the ship redacted, meant to show that this tragedy could happen on any slave ship across the Middle Passage. 24 years after the Zong trial, the slave trade was outlawed in both Great Britain and the United States. It would take England another 26 years, and the US another 58, plus a civil war, before the practice of slavery was banned outright.
So even after all of that, it went to court case. Again, America was the last ones. 60, I want to say almost 100 some years after the fact, when they finally got rid of slavery. And then when they got rid of it, it was such a horror, such a crime, because they had made all the doggone money off of it, and they didn't want anybody else to take their place as being a world superpower. Sister Coco says, shaking my head. Wow. Exactly. And that's just a snippet. That's just a snippet of one of the accounts about this one particular trial that went. 99 million of us didn't make it across just for the voyage alone. This went on for hundreds of years. Slavery, the institution of slavery went on for hundreds of years. We can't even fathom or imagine a year free. You imagine 1 year, no expenses in your house, no expenses, no gas, no rent, no lights. You don't pay for food. You don't pay for anything just for 1 year. After that 1 year, you're probably going to be doing pretty well. Well, these people, this devil, this oppressor, had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years of free labor from the slaves, free labor from the children, this absolute monopoly. And they made unfathomable amounts of money, of wealth. We have no idea whatsoever the amount of wealth that they have. We have been, again, because we don't remember things like this. We don't remember the days of old. We really think $1 million is some money. We really think that, what if they pay? You got some Negroes that actually think and believe, well, if they pay reparations, then they just won't have enough to pay the bankrupt, because, bankrupt lie. They make their own damn money. That's not to mention all the money they made off of us all those years, the money they continue to make off of us now. As I'm riding to the cookout, me and my rib riding to the cookout, and one of the things that we just thought, we were just talking, like, we think about this tunnel. Some of these tunnels are up to $20 just to go through the damn tunnel. So $20 go through the tunnel when you got that. I should have pulled it up, the number of people that go, because I know it's got to be hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people that go through the damn tunnel every day. That's your reparation right there. They wanted to pay it just off of one damn tunnel, if that was the case. So it's never been about money. It's never been about resources. Never ever. America pays money, billions, to the fake Jewish people, the ones who stole our identity. They pay billions to them. They pay billions to Japanese that was in internment camp for a year. They pay every year. Now, this is yearly money that goes out to these people. They give aid to this African country. They give aid to this country after they done bombed and tore the damn country up. Then they come back and they give aid to it so they can put the government that they want to put in. It's never, ever been about money or resources. It's all about knowing who we are, keeping us right where they want us to be, keeping us disobeying our God, keeping us from remembering those days of old. Because as long as we don't remember those days of old, well, we can never call on our Father to get us out of here. We stuck here. We continue to be we continue to feed the world's empire. They continue to stand in the position that they're in. But if you've been looking outside, looking at the news, looking at anything that's going on, this story is about to be over with. This story is about to be over with, and we are on the verge. We are right on the edge and on the cusp of World War III. And I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful. So again, I just wanted to kind of bring that up when the scriptures in Deuteronomy 30:27, when it's saying, remember the days of old, and it says to ask their father, ask your elders. If we can go back in time and sit down with our elders and talk with them, if we can go back in time and sit back with our fathers and talk with them. And notice I'm saying go back in time, reason being because of us not remembering those days, because of us discontinuing our heritage, our fathers were thrown away and locked up or unalived or killed over the years. The elders was unalived, locked up, killed, disconnected over the years. So we don't have that. Most of us don't even have that to go back to refer to them. And even if we do have that to go back to refer to them, they've been so infected with damn it Christianity. They've been so infected with Christianity. They're gonna give you the accounts of a Martin Luther King and how great he was. They've lost that fight, that fire, that manhood, that spirit that the Lord put in us, his spirit to continually fight for our people, fight against the oppression. They become willing participants of the oppression. Willing participants of the oppression. It always amazes me when I tell people how Al Sharpton was an FBI informant, responsible for majority of your cocaine that was in the hood, or a good portion of your cocaine that was in the hood, getting it right from the mob. Tell people that, oh no, he got to be making that up. I'm not making that up. That's the truth. That's the truth. He even came out and admitted it years later. He came out and admitted it. But you can turn right to MSNBC and see him on there, shriveled up with the big head. This ain't right. And we need to go fight. And we fall for this mess. And we fall for it. All of our leaders sold us out. All of our leaders sold us out, and all of our leaders convinced us to not to remember the days of old. There was a couple of things I wanted to bring up. A couple of scriptures I wanted to bring up as far as remembering the days of old. And then I want to get to these other couple of stories that I had that I want to talk about a little bit. Who remembers one of our first one? I won't say I guess I can say one of the first ones when we talk about remembering the days of old. Maybe I give it to you for time's sake. Maybe that'll be better. Moses. Everybody's familiar with Moses, right? And Moses was one of our forefathers who actually remembered the days of old. When we look at the different entertainers and stars and so forth, Colin Kaepernick went out there and he decided to take a stand against police violence and so forth, and sacrifice his career really in doing so. And again, I'm always speak loosely about the brothers in the world, but that took courage. In my opinion, that took courage for him to do that. And when he did it was just about to actually be of some substance. And who remember what happened? What happened to the take a knee stance, and how did they douse that? Because the oppressor always got a way of dousing a fire or stopping us in our tracks when we start to get some kind of solidarity. Who remembers how they got rid of that? Anybody? Who knows what their secret weapon was? A secret weapon against Colin Kaepernick. And if you don't know, that's okay. That's cool. And if you don't know, that's all right. But it was Jay-Z. When I was in the height of everything, they sent old Jay-Z out there, Brooklyn's finest. They sent him out there to douse the flame, douse the fire. And Israel being Israel, us being, again, not remembering the days of old, us refusing to listen to the priests and the prophets of the men of the Lord, and willing to listen to an entertainer, or listen to a line on pastor, or listen to a politician. We will listen to bad advice all day long. And we did. And as a result, that got swept under the rug. They was able to boot Kaepernick out, no protests, no complaints. And that fire was gone. We didn't have that anymore. Our stars, our entertainers, our politicians, they, for the fame, for the wealth, for the popularity, they do what they do. Yep. You have Shema Lathan Bashim, you have a shout out Sister Raya and the building, and I appreciate the water for the garment. It is beautiful. I love it. Sister Ana says they bring in Jay-Z to tap dance. Exactly. And they do that with a lot of when we do try to come together with anything. That's why I thought the Montgomery Broad thing was so beautiful, because it didn't have enough. It was too quick. It was too fast. And even when I don't know if y'all saw afterwards, they tried to Marlon disappointed me. Oh, he commented talking about some let it be love, not war. Marlon disappointed me. But it's what I expect from them. But they got shot down. I was proud to see it got shot down quick. Niggas weren't trying to hit. we was feeling ourselves, popping our collar at the time. We weren't trying to hit that then. They shot that mess down fast, but that's normally what they'll do. You will see a lot of times they'll use the victims, like if it's like with Tamir Rice, they brought his own mother. I think it was the mother to come in. He wouldn't want this. He would want peace. All this mess, because after you done got a damn check. Or with Trayvon, the father. After he, you know what I'm saying, hey, with his Becky, he wouldn't want this. He would want peace. God, they do that mess all the time. Again, douse that flame, douse that fire to lull you back to sleep so that you don't remember those days of old. But that's not our history. I mean, that's not our culture. That's not our heritage. That's not our culture and our heritage. And again, that Bible tells us about our culture and our heritage, and it gives you it says, I give you the stories of old for your learning. We're supposed to learn from those stories from before. And one of our heroes in the Bible is Moses. Moses, and we're gonna pull this up and get a little bit on this before we run out of time. So I'm gonna go to Exodus in chapter 2. Exodus in chapter 2. Let me go ahead and pull that up. Because see, Moses exhibited some characteristics that you don't really see no more nowadays. You don't see these characteristics nowadays, because now our stars not entertainers with all that money, all their fame, and all their wealth. They get up there and they get on that track, or they get on the front of that screen, and they tell you the exact opposite of what you should be doing. The exact opposite of what you should be doing. Jay-Z said, sell all the drugs in the world. Sell all the drugs in the world. And we don't realize that if he loved us, he would follow the Lord, and he wouldn't send his brother down a dark path. He wouldn't condemn his brother to that type of lifestyle, knowing the traps that are at the end of that road. Our women, again, I told you about the Beyonce joint. I wanted to get a percentage. I never was able to get a good percentage of how many alternative lifestyle members comprises of this tour right now, but the whole tour is based and centered around this mess. So again, if individual, it's I got mine, you get yours. I got mine, you get yours. I got mine, you get yours. And that's just not our culture. Moses is what you would now, I guess nowadays you would say Moses would be a billionaire. As a matter of fact, Moses was a son of the Pharaoh, so he would be more than the billionaire. Moses had no reason whatsoever to look backwards. Our entertainers, our politicians, our stars, our leaders, even the pastors, riding off in Bentleys, buying jets, they don't look backwards. They can care less about the people behind them. They can care less about the peons, the small people. They got theirs, and that's the only thing that matters. But that's not our heritage. That's not our culture. Moses was that man. Moses had no reason outside of his identity, outside of who he was, outside of how Sister Ana raises her son, because the way his mother raised him. That's why Moses looked back for his people. Yonderba Aqua, Yonderba. Yeah, it was awesome, and you definitely gonna be hearing from me again. I know also Mataza Karabi trying to hug them all to itself. You trying to hug them all to itself, but nah, but I definitely appreciate you. I definitely appreciate you, Aqua. So we're gonna go with Exodus chapter 2, we're going to start at verse 1. I start at verse 1, and we'll work our way down. We're going to try to get through them. I just want to get a little bit on the characteristics of Moses, because, again, Moses was raised as the son of the Pharaoh. So Moses had that bread. Moses had that money. Moses had wealth. Moses had fame. Moses had popularity. Moses had authority. Moses had rulership. But Moses didn't forget who he was. Moses remembered the days of old. In verse 1, it says, and there went a man of a house of Levi and took a wife of a daughter of Levi. If you Levi is, that's going to be our Haitian brothers and sisters. So Moses today would be considered a Haitian. And the woman conceived and bare a son. And when she saw him that he was a goodly child, she hid him 3 months. She hid him because they was offing us. They was getting rid of just how they get rid of us now. Just how they getting rid of us now. So she wasn't supposed to have that child, but she, despite the oppression, she had Moses, despite the oppression. Our sisters now today, that's another example or another way of how that individual. Well, I want to have a good life. Well, I want to go to college. I want to have a good career. So you will abort or unalive that baby because you want to have a good career. You want to have a good life. That's another way that they have that we don't remember the days of old. We don't remember the days of old. The Lord told us to be fruitful and multiply. We was in captivity. Be fruitful and multiply. So we don't have that right. We're not afforded that opportunity. We don't get stronger by unaliving our children, our future. That's our future. It wasn't, I'm pretty sure for most of us here in this room, our parents weren't under the best conditions or circumstances when they had us, but some kind of way, shape, fashion, or form, they toughed through and they brought us in this world. And that's another reason why we extend our love, our forgiveness to everybody else. And a lot of times when it comes to our mothers and our fathers, because our father wasn't there, or our mother she was strung out, or she was this and she was that, you hear as a result of them. And a lot of people don't make that decision. A lot of women, not up to 350, 400,000 of them don't make that decision every year. Every year, they not going to bring that child into the earth. Yours did. So if it's any reason you're looking forward to forgive them, to love them, to honor them how the Most High said we supposed to honor them, that's your reason. You got it. When that Bible talks about forgiveness 7 times 70, that's what it's talking about. It's not for the Edomites. It's not for the other nations. That's for each other. We slaves and we do slave shit, and as a result, we suffer. And we inflict pain upon the other ones. That don't make it right, but that do mean that does make for the opportunity for us to forgive and love one another, to exemplify that brotherhood and that sisterhood. And let's be honest, we are the Israelite School and Universal Practical Knowledge. If you UPK, you're going to be the one teaching everybody else to do it. Where you think they're going to get it from? We the example. All right, so it says, and woman conceived and bare a son, and when she saw him, he was a goodly child, she hid him for 3 months. And when she could not longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrushes and daubed it with slime and with pitch, and put the child therein. And she laid it in the flags by the river's brink. The woman had a lot of faith. And so she's going to send the child up. We're going to skip down a little bit. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river. And her maidens walked along by the riverside. And when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it. So she seen Moses out there. She sent her maids out there to grab Moses. And when she opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the babe wept. And she had compassion on him and said, this, and this is the part I wanted to get to, this is one of the Hebrews' children. It was known about us. We had a reputation. Even then, even at our lowest state, we had a reputation because we refused to remember the days of old. Look at our reputation now. If the video I was going to pull up, but I ain't even want to pull it up. I couldn't even force myself to pull it up. It's with Sexy Red and Sukiana, whatever her damn name is. And it's the worst song I ever heard in my life. Worst song I ever heard in my life. We are so proud to be whores, proud to be prostitutes. And I'm shocked and amazed, but I'm not shocked and amazed because I'm old enough and I'm honest enough to say I've seen it's been happening for a long time. That's not even the worst item probably ever heard. It's just been happening for a long time. I guess it's just the level of acceptance that it's at now. At least back in the day, you would have somebody say, "No, that ain't right." Well, no, not nowadays. Nowadays, you see grandma jamming to it too. You see grandmas and ATs all at the party having a good time with it too, and we have sank deeper and deeper and deeper into this hole called America, called AKA Mystery Babylon. We and I'm right there with your sister. I'm right there with your sister, Ryan. I saw it, and it's kind of like watching a car wreck. You don't want to keep looking at it because you got people behind you, and you get mad when you behind these same people, but you want to go, but now you going bad, and it's like terrible. It's body parts everywhere and mangled metal, and so you almost kind of got to look at it, and that's how it was when I saw it, and it's just amazing. It's just amazing. She talking about getting fellatio to Joe Biden, to old Sleepy Joe and the son, Sleepy Joe. Out of all the oppressors, but it's just no shame, no shame whatsoever. And this is what we've been reduced down to: not remembering the days of old. The Bible called our women, blacks, Latinos, Native Indian women, princesses of Zion, princesses of Zion. Not queens, because queen means whore, prostitute, but princesses of Zion. And we've strayed so far away from that. We've strayed so far away from that. And it's, again, a result of us not remembering the days of old. Everything that all the rape that happened on those slave ships, from that clip I showed you. Slave master, when they had to do all that now, he throw a couple dollars, he get anything he want. He would not do none of that no more. He ain't got to do it, unless he just didn't want to spend no money. He ain't got to do none of that now. He can get that from Sexy Red and Sukiana. Throw a couple dollars, he got it. Just like that, no problem. And we don't realize those same ones that turn around and probably do old Black History program or Black History concert. Like your ancestors really would be proud of you, or any of us for that matter. And if you're not in the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, how could you be honoring your mother, your father, if you succumb to the slave master and all his tricks and his traps because you don't remember the days of old? All right, so we're gonna go ahead and go a little bit further. So anyways, all right, so they find Moses, bring Moses in, and verse 7, she says, then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, shall I go and call to thee a nurse of the Hebrew women? We were so special, so particular. That's a Hebrew child. Let me go get one of these Hebrew women to raise him. That's what happens when you got a legacy and a heritage. You got a reputation like the reputation we had. And this is before the Lord had to deal with Pharaoh like that. This is beforehand. This is just because of what was set in place up until then, prior to that. And I wanted to kind of go into that as well with Joseph, on his wisdom, on him remembering who we were. See, because Joseph remembered who we were, Joseph made sure that we were set up apart from the rest of from the Egyptians. This is why they knew that this was a Hebrew child. It was no mistakes that, okay, he could be an Egyptian child. None whatsoever. They knew he was a Hebrew child. And they knew, hey, in order for this Hebrew child, we need to go get a Hebrew maid. See, Joseph made sure he told his brothers when they came in there, when the Pharaoh asked you, tell them that y'all sheep herders. And this is what y'all have always done. From the days of your youth, this is what you done. Why? Because the Egyptians, that was an abomination to them. That was disgusting and nasty and filthy to them. That was something that they hated. Sheep herders and dealing with sheep. Like Captain Dr. Zachary Shaw always bring out, if you look at Africans have always had an issue with clothing and food. Well, with us being sheep herders, with that being part of our culture and our heritage, we didn't have that issue. That's what's that sheep give you? What all do you get from the sheep? Who can give me type it in the chat? What do you get from having sheep or being sheep herders? What's the benefit of being sheep herders? Outside of that main one, we didn't have to deal with them Egyptians. We had our own separate land in Goshen. Who knows what all you get from being a sheep herder? I know Sister Raya knows because she be making them garments. She be making them garments, so I know she know. And for time's sake, I'll go ahead and throw it out there because we all run a long time. But that's gonna be your garments. That's gonna be your leather and your wood. That's why we was fly like we was fly. That's gonna be your milk and your meat and so forth, your livestock. That we had just that just by us holding on to our identity, not trying to be like the Egyptians and do what they do, but do what the Lord had already set in place and called for us. For that's part of that inheritance, that legacy that the Lord gave us. So Joseph has set us up like that already. And so when they saw Moses coming out in that water, that's a Hebrew child. And he said, let me go get a Hebrew nurse. And then, and as a result, Most High in Christ, as a result, it said in verse 8, it said, and the Pharaoh's daughter said to her, go. And the maid went and called the child's mother. So because that mother was like, nah, I'm not getting rid of my child. Because that mother didn't get rid of her child, and that mother tried to find a way for that child to stay, Moses ended up being raised by his mother. They went and fetched the mother, and the mother came back. Yep. So I knew Sister Ryan was gonna be on it. That's clothes, that's meat. And again, that was wisdom upon Joseph. Joseph was wise in telling and having the brothers tell Pharaoh, now, well, we've always been sheep herders, because that's gonna mean they don't want to be around us anyway. And that's gonna give us that industry. That's gonna give it. That's the word I was looking for. That's gonna give us that industry. That's gonna give us that agriculture. That's gonna give us that husbandry. That's gonna give us all of that right there in that one, just in that sliver, that section right there. We get all of that just from that, and we maintain that because we were divided from them how the Most High had intended. All right, so we're gonna fast forward a little bit. We're gonna fast forward a little bit because I want to get to this particular part. All right, so Moses grew up. It says, verse 10, the child grew up, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called him Moses, and she said, because I drew him out of the water. And when it came to pass in those days when Moses was grown, that he went out unto his brethren. So even though he had grew up in there with Pharaoh, his brothers was outside. He went out to his brethren. Moses did. He remembered them days of old. He knew who his brothers and his sisters was. He knew who his people were. That's not like our stars today. That's not like our people today. We lose and we trim our ways. We trim our ways and we give up everything to be around these people, to be around these other nations. We worship their gods. We celebrate their holidays. We have sex with their women. You name it, we do it all to fit in, to trim our ways, to be like them. And that is not what the Lord intended for us to be. It never was what the Lord intended for us to be. But Moses didn't do that. Moses held fast to who he was, even though he had money, he had wealth, and he had fame, and he had a reason to say, I'm not messing with them. That he could have easily done that. And he had the wealth to back it up, but he didn't do that. He still identified with his brothers and his sisters. All right, so I'm gonna keep on going. And look on their burdens, and that's another thing. The Bible says if a man is rich, he's rich to take care of the poor. You'll see in the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, we have food drive, we have clothing drive. We try to administer and take care and serve the people. Serve the people with all the money, wealth that the church has taken in, up to $800 billion in the last 40, 50 some years. We shouldn't have anybody poor in our neighborhoods. We shouldn't have anybody poor in our neighborhoods. Moses had bread. Moses had wealth, had fame, had fortune, all of the above, and he looked on their burdens. He didn't have to. What star that you love, that you adore, that's your favorite rapper, your favorite singer, how do they look on other people's burdens? They always get up there and they get them awards. They right when they get finished twerking, they go up there and they say, "My Lord Savior Jesus Christ, I want to thank you, such. You know I'm from such and such. I'm from the A-town. I'm from Memphis." Or they drop where they from or whatever. But if you ever go back to those same cities, most of those cities are dilapidated, destroyed, devastated, tore up. But they get up there with all that money, all those awards, all those accolades, and everybody clapping is proud of them. Well, Moses wasn't like that. Moses wasn't like that. Moses, with everything that he had, he went out unto his brethren, and he looked on their burdens. And then it said he spied an Egyptian spiting a Hebrew. Smiting a Hebrew. This is how you know, again, with all that message, how they lie, they try to make it seem like the fake Jewish are us. They are not us. How could one of them be raised in Pharaoh's house and everybody not know that he was different? He couldn't. One of these fake ponytail hat wearing, little hat wearing Jewish people could not pass off as no Egyptian. They couldn't pass off as being one of them. It wouldn't work aesthetically. It wouldn't work demographically. It wouldn't work visually. They are not us. We are the Israelites. Sister Ryan says, we too busy buying the same stuff. These fake role models wearing versus supporting our own communities, and that's absolutely 100% correct. And if you look at any of our movements, our ways of trying to come together before, they have all failed. And part of the reason is what you're saying. We too busy buying the same stuff from what everybody else is pushing from the other nations, giving the money, the wealth away to the other nations. But another portion, another reason why it doesn't work, is always unsuccessful. It's because we don't remember the days of old. We don't. If we do come together and supporting one another, it's in the spirit of making another person wealthy. It's not in the spirit of supporting another Israelite. And that's a whole different type of spirit. Because if that spirit is based off making somebody wealthy, well, then it's just about the money. At some point, some Edomite is going to come in there with a better idea, a better plan. And look, I got distribution. You can do this. You're going to make a ton more money. And so eventually it's going to fall through. That solidarity, that unity, that comes from remembering the days of old. Because we always have a tendency, we always want to try to take the Lord out of everything. This is why all of our stuff, it always fails. This is why whenever we do try to come together, it fails, because the Lord isn't in it. When the Lord is in it, when He's involved in it, He's right in the middle of it, then it's going to be successful. If we will come together, we would have that spirit to do exactly what you're saying, Sister Ryan. We would have that spirit. We wouldn't want to get that money to nobody else. We wouldn't want to support nobody else. Why? Why would I go buy clothes from Edith or Becky or Karen? Why would I go buy clothing from her when I know Sister Raya got she got them fine garments right down the street? I'm not gonna get no money to these bro. I'm not getting no money to them. I'm gonna bring it to you. Why would I go to one of their chain stores or their franchises when I know Officer Mataza Akara, he got some shops right down here? I'm going down there. This is what we lost because we forgot. We didn't remember those days of old. And Christianity is part of one of the main reasons, one of the main ways that we lost that. We lost that that spirit of coming together. And just the spirit and sake of, because it's us coming together. We lost all that with Christianity, with Martin Luther King. We lost all of our businesses. We lost all of our schools. We were building colleges and higher institutions of learning. We were building those. We were building hospitals and theaters and airstrips. We were doing all of this stuff fresh out of slavery because we still had that same spirit. We remembered the days of old. Them marks. You could probably go look at grandma or one of your uncles and still see them marks on their back. How we looked at in the video they got from that cat of nine tails. And I don't know if y'all heard, it said that they made it to inflict the most pain possible. Now it's already painful for a mother to be whipping you on your back, period. But they made this to inflict the most pain possible. That's the devil that's this devil, that's the suppressor that we serve. It's not enough to hurt. It's not enough to inflict pain. It has to be worse than that. It has to be the worst pain ever. It has to be a forever bondage. I can't just have you in slavery. I got to have your children in slavery as well. That's who we serve. That's the devil that we serve. That's the suppressor. And that's gonna make me skip to the other scripture I wanted to get to before we get up out of here. But again, Moses remembered the days of old. He looked on their burdens. He went out unto his brothers, and he didn't have to do that. And then he spied an Egyptian smiting a Hebrew. Police brutality. That's what he saw. One of his brethren. He still identified him as his brother. And then it says on verse 12, and he looked this way and that way. And when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian. I mean, he killed that Egyptian. He laid that Egyptian down, then he hit him in the sand. That's just how passionate he was about his brothers and his sisters. Now, again, we know in here that the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, we don't condone any violence. We want us to come together, and the Lord is going to be our vengeance. The Lord is going to administer that vengeance when time is due, when it comes due. But that spirit hit Moses, and he couldn't help. He saw him beating up on his brother. He did something about it again, and that's just how much he cared about his brothers and his sisters. Kind of like that same spirit you saw on that riverboat front. Moses wasn't worried about getting caught. He wasn't in that moment. He wasn't worried about getting caught. He wasn't worried about the consequences. He just knew he had hurt his brother. He hurt his brother and his sister. And if we remember the days of old, we would be the same way. All right, so I'm gonna stop there because that's the biggest point, main point I wanted to get across was, again, Moses was in a position where he did not have to do that. He was in a position where he could have been selfish, like we're taught to be here. He could have been an individual, like we're taught to be good Americans. He could have been an individual, been a good Democrat or Republican or a good Christian or a good Muslim. He could have been an individual, and that has nothing to do with him. But he didn't, because, again, he remembered those days of old. We don't remember the days of old, and because we don't remember the days of old, we don't remember who our enemy is. We don't remember who our enemy is, and we don't remember what the Lord said about our enemy. This oppressor that we are under is unlike no other. He's unlike no other. As time went on, part of the reason why we don't remember the days of old is because under Egypt, you see that Moses knew he was a Hebrew. Well, when these Romans and these Greeks took over, when Esau got in charge and took over, that changed. That changed. They didn't want us. It was unlawful for us to call ourselves a Jew or us to practice our culture and our heritage the way that we were supposed to be. They made it hard and hard over time, and we gave up more and more trying to be like them. But the Lord told us that this was going to happen. He warned us that this was going to happen. The more and more we intermingle with these people, the more and more that we got with these people, specifically, the more and more we laid down with their woman, and we adopted their customs and their ways and their cultures. The Lord said that was going to turn us away from Him. And I'm gonna pull that up real quick, and then we're gonna get to this other scripture I want to get to before we get up out of here, and that's gonna be in Deuteronomy 7:3. We're gonna start at Deuteronomy 7:3. Deuteronomy 7:3. Where you at? I'll see how you want to add. All right, I'll go to 32 first, and I'll pull it up from there. Deuteronomy 7:3. All right, it says, so neither shalt thou make marriages with them. And again, we know here we teach the Bible, and the Bible teaches that sex is marriage. If you lay down with that brother, sister, that's your husband. Brother, if you lay down with that sister, that's your wife. It says, neither shalt thou make marriages with them, talking about the other nations, the non-Israelites. Thy daughter thou shalt not give unto his son. We don't give our daughters to their sons, and nor his daughter shalt thou take unto thy son. And we don't take their daughters for our son. See, so Sister Anna would never have to worry about that, because she's teaching her son already. He know that he's special. He better than he is an Israelite. He knows that ain't what the Lord intended. That ain't what the Lord ever wanted for him. So that's by her teaching him that, he already had that defense in place. He can remember that. He's gonna remember that them days of old. He'll remember that was our heritage. That's our culture. That's a warning from the Lord. That's the stories that we need to take heed to. That law, statutes, and commandments. That's what we should follow. In verse 4, and this is the reason why. For they will turn away thy son from following me. Because see, if she never teaches her son that, then her son is gonna turn away and follow Becky. And he won't follow the Most High. He won't follow the Lord. He'll follow Raesh or one of these other heathen women. He'll follow their culture, and he'll worship their gods. But he won't follow the Most High. He won't follow the Lord. That they may serve other gods. so will the anger of the Lord be kindled against you. When we look outside, we look at our communities, and we look at what we're going through now. The video I showed you of us being on that slave ship, that's a result of the Lord, his anger being kindled against us. That's a result of that. That's a result of the judgments. And destroy thee suddenly. We were destroyed suddenly when we got on those ships. It wasn't no turning back after that. It wasn't no, okay, I'm going to get it right next week. All right, we're going to have to work on this. None of that. Everything changed. Just like everything's going to change when this war kick off. It's going to change all over again. It's going to be the same thing, and it's going to come about suddenly. And again, if we did what the Most High said do, if we didn't make marriages with them, if we didn't put our children, or we weren't put in the situations of turning away from the Lord, that we will remember the days of old. We will remember just who this oppressor is. The oppressor hates us with a perpetual hatred that will never, ever, ever, ever stop. And he's not like anybody else. I want to pull up Hebrews chapter 12, verse 16. 12 verse 16. And actually, before that, has anybody ever heard of pederasty? Let's get that real quick. Let's get the definition of pederasty real quick. If you've heard of pederasty real quick, just give me a con or la while I look for my slide. If you've ever heard of pederasty before. I found that fast. There you go. All right, let's read it. Let's read it. Pederasty. Pederasty, or pedastry, I think that's how you pronounce it, is a sexual relationship between an adult man and a boy. I'm not making this up. The term pederasty is primarily used to refer to historical practices of certain cultures. Certain cultures. See, everybody had their own culture. Remember, the Most High divided the nations, but his portion, we was his portion. We got our culture and our heritage from the Lord. We didn't get our culture and our heritage. All right, I see Sister Nah said la. I see Sister Ryan says la. That's cool. We're finna find out right now. But Tazakara know what it is. He says, "Con, these devils gonna be devils." He know what it is. But again, so it says historical practices of certain cultures. Again, this is why the Lord told us to stay away from these other people, and this is why we're so different from them. We get our culture from the Lord. We get our heritage from the Lord. The other nations don't, so we're not like them. Historical practices of certain cultures, particularly ancient Greece and ancient Rome. Esau, Edomites, correct? Edomites. In most countries today, the local age of consent determines whether a person is considered legally competent to consent to sexual acts and whether such contact is child sexual abuse or statutory rape. An adult engaging in sexual activity with a minor may be considered, y'all, you hear this shit, right? May be considered abusive by medical authorities for a variety of reasons, including the age of the minor, the likelihood of the minor developing one or more mental disorders, alternative lifestyle, LGBT community, such as post-traumatic stress disorder, physical injury to the minor, and the minor's propensity for further victimization in adulthood. That just explains your whole LGBT 123 alternative lifestyle community. Sister Rod says the Lord says, "Stay away from the filth." Shaking my exactly. Now, and again, you always got to kind of read in between the words that they say because they so smooth with it. They slid in some may consider this child sexual abuse. You see how they slid that shit in? Some of them may consider. It may be considered. It might be. It's always the semantics with the devil. It's always semantics with the devil. The Lord is straightforward with his. Straightforward. Our culture was not like that culture. When we get out on those streets and we say that the white man is the devil that the Bible speaks of, this is what we're referring to. It's no accident that our men and our women are walking around here. Our boys want to be girls and our girls want to be boys. I saw more of that in Harlem with us than with any other nation. I didn't see Moab, no Chinese LGB 123 members out there. I didn't see no African LGB 123 members out there. But you know who I did see? I saw us. I saw a lot of Israelites confused about who they were. Men that thought they were boy or girls, and girls that thought they were doggone boy. I saw a lot of that. So I wanted to bring this up just to get to this scripture right here, because again, everything is in the Bible. Like we said when we first started the class, 1 Thessalonians 5, chapter 5, verse 21, prove all things. And if a man speak, let a man speak as the oracles of God. Everything is already in that Bible. It's already in the Bible, and it tells you exactly who this oppressor is. We don't know because we don't. Miss Coco, Sister Coco says like as well. That's all right. But yeah, this is where this comes from. It was a known common practice for that old man to be with a young boy. That was their culture. That was known. That's how they got down. Matter of fact, when they went to their higher learning institutions of learning, that's you would get paired up with an old boy. I give you another one real quick before we go. Officer Mataz Akra, I know what I'm about to get ready to say. 300, old Leonidas. Oh, they made him look so tough and so rugged and so in the movie, and they fighting and giving the rest of them hell. Sparta. Every last one of them was LGB 123. Every last one of them. Every last one of them. That 300 was 150 pair of lovers. But they don't tell you that in the movie when you're watching. They don't tell you none of that in the movie when you're watching it. This was their culture. This is who they are. They have always been this way. When the Bible said that they have always been repudiated as nothing, they've always had the reputation for nothing. This is one of the things that it's referring to. These other nations, these other cultures, they have always been against the Lord. They have always been against us. Why? Because we didn't have a culture like them. We weren't like them. You having sex, making measure with a child was not our culture. But it's Islam culture. It wasn't our culture. It's Roman culture. It wasn't our culture though. But let me get this last scripture before we get out of here because we're running low on time. I want to pull Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 16. Hebrews chapter 12 verse 16. Because you just learned about pederasty. Pederosity. I can't even say the word right. Pederasty, I think. Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce it. But we're gonna pull Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 16. I know I pulled this up first. All right, I'm gonna have to find this as well. That's no biggie. All right, so let's go ahead and grab this first. We're gonna go ahead and put it from the top. It's good practice anyway. Y'all see me putting it up, so this way y'all be able to put it up on your own. Now, me personally, I have that Bible, the KJV Bible app downloaded on my phones, on both my phones, so I can get to it pretty quick. I try. I'm always in them. With these slaveries, the doggone devil, it'd be hard to study like I want to, so I'm always kind of going back and forth to them. And it's good to always kind of have that on hand. It's good to have that sword on hand. So again, you can remember the days of old. So this is going to be our last scripture for the night. Hebrews chapter 12 and verse 16. It says, "Lest there be any fornicator." Now, before we get too far, we're gonna pull up. I want to pull up that definition. Who knows the definition of fornication or fornicator? And it says, "Lest there be any fornicator or profane person, as Esau." We know who Esau is. That's your Edomites. That's your Caucasian. That's the devil. That's the oppressor. That's the oppressor the Bible speaks of. The devil the Bible speaks of. And it says, "For one morsel of meat sold his birthright." You know, that's with Jacob and Esau. He came in, saw that red pottage that wasn't even finished yet, and he sold his birthright because he didn't remember the days of old. That wasn't important to him. That birthright wasn't important to him. I'm hungry right now. That birthright is later. Give me some food now. So he sold his birthright. But again, it's always important to read this and know exactly what it's saying. So I want to look up the definition. We just got through reading about pederasty. And then it says right here in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 16, it says, "Lest there be any fornicator or profane person as Esau," meaning ain't no other fornicator, ain't no other profane person like Esau, like the devil the Bible speaks of, like the oppressor. And then let's look at the definition of that real quick. So I'm gonna go up here, and I already got profane pulled up. Profane, to treat something sacred with abuse, irreverence, or contempt. Desecrate, which is what he did with their birthright when he sold their birthright for uncooked meat. To debase by a wrong, unworthy, or vulgar use. If that's not this oppressor, then I don't know who is. That's this oppressor. That's the devil. That's Esau. That's the Caucasian, the colonizer. That's the devil the Bible speaks of. And now we got profane. Let's get on fornicator. Let's get fornicator. Let's get fornicator. Maybe I should have pulled this one up first. Don't trip. Come on, give it to me. All right, so it's tripping on fornicator. So what I'm gonna do is get fornicate. That's not the one I'm looking for. It's sexual deviancy. That's what I'm looking for, and that gets back to that pederasty. Everything that's in that Bible is in there for a specific reason, and so it's a reason why. Let me see. It's not on the 4 page. Not married to each other compared to adultery. Yeah, this isn't the one that I'm looking for. Because this is gonna give you their definition of adultery and so forth. But we know, okay, we'll take it from that standpoint then back. So we know from our brotherhood class, and we're going over the laws, adultery is unlawful sex, correct? Well, it's no more person more profane, more profound as far as unlawful sex like Esau. And when you talk about unlawful sex, that's that pederasty that we just read about. That's that LGBT alternative lifestyle that we just read that we read about. That's them in a nutshell. That's what they are about. So again, there's no accident that they are the same way now that they were then. Let me get this off screen too. But there's no accident that they are the same way now that they are then. And look, I'm up here reading the definition. I thought y'all could see it. Y'all ain't tell nobody. I can see it. Y'all can't see it. All right. But so again, we're just talking about profane and fornication. Again, that's what it's referring to. It's no devil like this devil that we're under. And pederasty, that homosexual, that alternative lifestyle, that's all their culture, not some fringe. Well, some of them, no, that was ingrained into their culture. That's how they are. That's who they were. We also get monogamy from them as well. We've always had multiple wives. They were the ones who brought on that monogamy. But again, if you got a little boyfriend and so forth, why would you want to have more than one wife? You kind of see how they kind of play in together. We've adopted their customs. We've adopted their culture, not realizing that's because we didn't remember the days of old. Not realizing that weakens us and that prevents us from being protected, strengthened, that restricts us from the inheritance that the Lord has for us. So if anybody doesn't have any questions, again, I did my best interpretation of Officer Murtaza Akara tonight. Try to give a good history class. That's our history book. This Bible is our history book. Way bigger than slavery, way bigger than Black History Month and all the other stuff that they give us. We have real life. We come from real life heroes. We come from superheroes. We come from men, women of the Lord, who love the Lord, and left us a legacy and an inheritance. And here in the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge, you learn how to obtain that. You learn how to work towards that, how to put your brick in, and so we can build this nation and get back to the legacy, the heritage, and the culture that the Most High intended for us. So if I don't have any questions, I'm going to go ahead and read these announcements. Thank everybody for attending tonight, and all the participation. High holy days. The water Officer Murtaza Akara. You hold that history class down. I did my best, and I'll be the damn slavery boy. Boy, I'm gonna work. Lord willing, my plantation is gonna be 24 hours a day, Lord willing, because I'm gonna remember the days of old. I'll remember these days right here. 24-hour plantation. You never ain't anybody resting, but me, us. We the only ones resting. We'll never rest on my plantation, Lord willing. So high holy days. We got coming up September 15th. It's going to be the memorial of blowing of the trumpets. That's going to be the first day of the seventh month. I believe we're doing something at the school, but I'm about to double check on that. I think we are. That's going to be Leviticus chapter 23, verses 27 and 32. And we also got the Feast of Tabernacles coming up. And that's going to be Friday, September 29th, through October 7th. If I'm not mistaken, that's when everybody except for me, going over to the UK to get it in. They're going over to the UK to get it in. I swear I wish I had the bread to go, because I would be right there. They're going to be in King James Castle. That is going to be awesome. But if my brothers is there, I'm there. That's how I look at it. So that's gonna be awesome. Again, that's gonna be September 20. Nope, damn, I just had it. Didn't I? Man, I messed it up. Hold on, I skipped one. Okay, no, I didn't. All right, so that's September 29th. But before September 29th, I probably skipped this one on purpose. Before September 29th is the Day of Atonement. That's gonna be the 10th day of the 7th month. That's gonna be Sunday the 24th, September 24th. That's Leviticus 23, also 27 through 32. Feast of Tabernacles is Leviticus 23, 34 through 44. So yeah, that Day of Atonement is gonna be that's a day when we inflict sacrifice upon ourselves or whatever. So that's gonna be a unifying day, that is. That's gonna be it for the high holy days. The announcements. We are the Israelite School of Universal Practical Knowledge. Start out at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York. Rule for new brother or sister. New brother or sister comes into the school. They are off limit for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to share themselves with the world. If they need transportation, the teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There's another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. And after a 6-month period, the brothers and sisters will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment, found in Numbers 18 to 21, also Malachi chapter 3, verses 8 through 10. It means 10th in the Hebrew, ma'ashara, 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you. Give to the Treasury Department or teacher. There's a priest fund. There's a free will offering for the priest. It's not mandatory, whatsoever amount you would like. If any brother wants to be a trooper in the school, make sure you start wearing all black, boots, shirts, pants, headband, war scarf. Sisters in the class, you want to make sure your head is covered when you're in class. Outside of that, that is it for our announcements. The water for everybody coming in tonight. Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai Barakatah to the brothers. Yahweh Shem Alatham Ba Shem Yahweh Shai to the sisters. America on Fire should be on now. So check that out. The general should be on there dropping that fire. And Shalom, Israel.